So it's great to speak today with Kevin Monahan, founder and CEO at, specialist endurance sport digital agency, Amos Digital. Kevin, how are you doing?
We're doing pretty good, recovering from last week, but it was good to have the industry kind of come back to life. So excited to be at the precipice of the whole Christmas season and going into 2021.
Yeah, we're going to talk about last week in a minute because I think you've
Yeah.
got some interesting insights. It'd be great to get your perspective. And maybe to start with, can you give us a bit of a background about yourself and how Amos Digital came about?
Yeah. So I've always been a creative from a technology and marketing standpoint. So when I first entered into like my first job, I was a developer, WordPress developer, and did some coding, right? So basically a PHP developer. And as my career grew, I moved more into the marketing side of things, just because marketing and technology go together pretty well. And I found myself working on very small budgets, hacking together solutions for people. And so when I got to a point in my career,
So that's hacking. That's hacking in a legitimate way. Yeah, that's good hacking.
Like, yeah, I'd say hacking in a legitimate way. Exactly. So basically, when I got to a point in my career where I felt like it was time to start doing this on my own, I created Hack Growth, which is a company that's been around for a couple of years now. You might have seen the logo out at different industry events and things like that. And Hack Growth was just kind of, hey, we'll basically take your small business budget and we'll go compete with the big guys. We didn't really have a purpose. We just had we're creative and we could do it. So Amos kind of came out of that, where we found that the endurance industry is a very small business industry. We connected very well with our clients. Myself, I'm an Ironman triathlete, so I have a lot of contacts in that area. And Amos actually kind of grew out of Hack Growth because we really wanted to define who we were. And my background, I grew up on a lake called Amos Lake. It's where I learned how to swim. It's where I did all my open water swimming when I was a kid. It's where my grandfather, used to make us run around the lake and in 5Ks, right? So I figured that was the best way to kind of represent who I am in the industry. And then the color scheme and logos and all that really connects with more of that outdoorsy endurance lifestyle than Hack Growth ever did. So Hack Growth is still around. Hack Growth does some application stuff and development there. But Amos Digital is really the core of our business, and it's what we'll use going forward.
Yeah. So in terms of the digital services that you have, maybe you could just summarize what they are. That'd be helpful.
Yeah. So in the elevator speech, we're a full service digital agency. So we'll build your website and we'll get people there. Simple as that, right? But the biggest thing is we're Shopify experts. And I come after my development days, I ended up in the paid media space, right? So I ended up in the ad buying space and things like that. So I ran an ad part of the business for a large agency in the US. And so when I came over to do Hack Growth and Amos, I brought that skill set there. So we kind of have the front end development of your website. Typically, we love to use Shopify. It's just so easy for businesses in our space. And then we get people there through SEO, PPC, paid media, all that. We do email marketing, we do video, we do everything else. But those are our cores, right? Is build it and get them there.
Exactly. If you build it, they will come. Which is, I suppose, the next thing we like to talk about. I'll probably spend most time talking about this is the trends. So you issued a release, which was really interesting. So you referenced some trends that you've observed in online search, obviously for endurance sport specifically. Yeah. And I think the really interesting observation is that there appears to be perhaps an obvious shift towards direct to consumer sales. So the shift seems to be obviously to online retail. Certainly that's happening. Obviously a lot of consumers are embracing online retail, but they're also embracing brand direct consumer sales, so buying from brand specific websites. I think that's really interesting. And maybe if you could give a bit more detail on that.
Yeah, so our entire industry is pretty interesting because we have, prior to COVID, right? We have runners who every day they buy running shoes online, right? We have our small hub running stores where some people go, but overall the industry is okay with buying things online. Cycling is the exact opposite. They're typically just not okay with buying things online. The LBS is kind of the hub of the community. We love that. And we don't want to totally change that, but we see the opportunity for getting outside of that box, right? And then swimming is even kind of more to that side than running is because there's no real good swim shops unless it's a try shop, right? So the industry coming into this, we're kind of in this weird bubble of like the different perspectives. So some of the numbers that we had in the press release were more related to cycling than anything else, because that's really what's bringing those buyers direct to consumer. That's where our biggest market, direct to consumer, is. So we saw a huge jump, upwards of 80% early on. You can go to Google Trends, trends.google.com, and look up any keyword you want, and you'll see March, April, May. Those trends were way up year over year, month over month, everything. And then we did see a decline over the summer into kind of where we are now. So now we're starting to see that there's still this growth in that direct-to-consumer industry of about 18 to 20% in a lot of those like core terms. We're seeing it come through with a lot of our clients as well, so like in real hard data. But we're also, when you're looking at the trends and really trying to understand where the industry is going, we're seeing that 18 to 20% stick around and still purchase online.
So, yeah. So no, you mentioned obviously you got these Google Trends. So you're seeing comparable figures in terms of, I mean, obviously you can't talk about clients and their sales at all, clearly, but you're seeing clients who are exceeding that growth or kind of matching it at the very least.
I would say across the board, we pretty much match it. There are some that are blowing it out of the water because they've always been direct to consumer, right? And that brand's just building because people are familiar with it. And then we're seeing some that are just getting into the D2C space, and they're pacing right along with it as people are familiarized.
Yeah. So we had 361 Degrees, Chinese shoe brand, on an interview recently, and they had a strategy, certainly in Europe, to be very much supporting the run stores. So clearly, when lockdown happened, they had this big drop in their sales, but then they picked up since the reopening in summer. So as you mentioned, the summer online kind of leveled off a bit because people getting back into retail. I mean, what would you say to a brand like that has clearly made a vested strategic commitment to support and continue with run retail? Would you say that's misguided, or would you say that clearly each company can make their own call on where they go with these things? And I did think it was really encouraging that they were supporting retail.
Yeah,
it's this really difficult thing, isn't it? And this brand direct thing is obviously a thing that's brands must be wrestling with all the time, I suppose.
It's kind of that car dealership mentality, right? Where you're going in and you have a specific brand that you sell, you're loyal to that brand. Those opportunities are great. You do need to expand your audience, and like that's a business strategy for a lot of these brands. Is if we get out of the box, we can do this effectively. I think the biggest thing in the D2C community, and as we're seeing it grow here, and just to kind of give the reference here, like just because cycling is kind of the one that's farther behind the rest. I know you're asking about running, but with cycling, like it's hard to break the brand out of that shell, right? And it takes a lot of work to control your brand and emphasize your brand online the way that you want to, because you're not depending on your retailers to do that anymore. So you need to have a clear strategy to do it effectively. And it's really like, if you have that strategy to go out with, and you're doing it right, I think everybody should focus on. I mean, we've got buyers in local retail, right? We're not going to alienate them, but we also have an opportunity to expand that audience, and really connect directly with your consumer, where you can't in a retail shop, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the D2C brands, we will do heavy branding, advertisements, because we want to build the relationship with the consumer, even if they're going to make their purchase in person. So it's good to have both areas covered.
Yeah. So
doing
those
it right.
campaigns, would you favor social, or would you favor SEO, or is it a mix? Because
Um,
I get a sense that I'm not saying social's waning, but you do get a sense that people's I don't know, the trigger of social as a purchasing mechanism may be waning a bit.
Yeah.
There was certainly a peak earlier,
Yeah.
maybe last year and into the early this year, perhaps.
So Facebook has always been our biggest purchase engine. And since 2016, especially in the US market, it's been the trust factor there dropped significantly. So in 2016, we really saw the market of actual purchases on Facebook, direct click to conversion, drop significantly. It became more of an awareness engine, right? And that's where the Instagrams, the TikToks, all the new guys out there, right, that are trending right now, they have not figured out how to be a purchase engine yet. So we use a lot of top of funnel Facebook messaging. We use a lot of, and when I say top of funnel, I'm talking about awareness messaging. And we'll use them in the middle of the funnel for the remarketing and building that brand story piece. We typically keep budgets pretty low on the bottom end, unless we're doing like an email acquisition campaign, something that's not transactional. Not monetary, right?
Right. Yeah.
So social has some way to go. There's an opening for somebody to build trust and allow consumers that buying power again. And Facebook's done a lot to try to bridge that gap. They're just not there yet.
Yeah. That's fascinating. So in most recent weeks, obviously you mentioned like you were busy last week. So I'd like to kind of obviously again pick your brains carefully where you can't reveal specific stuff. So what indicators have you observed most recently, i.e. in the last week or two?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one is in our initial bump that we saw in the industry early in the year, right when COVID hit, we saw a lot of casual people getting either a better bike or new shoes, because I know that now I'm going to be running a lot, or buying a treadmill, or getting prepped to be indoors for a couple weeks, right? And those sales spiked. They spiked hard, and they happened early, right? And within the month, probably late October into November, we did get to see like in the triathlon world, we got to see Ironman Florida happen. And then we saw Arizona canceled, but we did see one happen. And I think that and some vaccine news and things like that are bringing the what we call the enthusiasts back into the market. So over the course of the last month, we've seen spikes in transaction value. So we're not selling low end items anymore like we were at the spike. If you talk to many brands across the space, I'm sure they will say that, yeah, our sales spiked, but they were buying the bare minimum at a bigger clip. Their cost per transaction went down. We're seeing those go up, and in some cases we saw them go up big in a big way. So what we think is the enthusiasts are preparing for a 2021 that will actually happen.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, as you said, the vaccine news is really good news. I think it definitely gives some confidence going forwards. So just to clarify that, you beginning of lockdown, March, April time, it was mainly like entry level athletes or new starters getting into sport, picking entry level products, and then in the recent weeks, as you say, when there's more of a certainty that things will be kicking off in terms of racing next year, it's the higher end bikes and so on.
Yeah, it was either the casual, person with a road cruiser buying a road bike or something, nicer, or it was the triathlete grabbing a pair of trail running shoes because they'd never trail run before, right? So it's those kind of like little crossovers that they don't know if they're totally into it yet, but they're making the change there to make quarantine a little bit better. But yeah, that's kind of the trends that we saw early on.
Because it's fascinating, isn't it, that if we've got this, I don't really like the word newbie, but like new starters coming into the sport, maybe not done an event yet. That provides you with a sort of tidal flow, if you like. Then you've got the established enthusiasts getting back into the sport. 2021 could actually be quite a good year, couldn't it? From that point of view, that double whammy of the new starters, enthusiasts.
I know I'm in this industry, and I'm in the side that like tries to drive traffic. So this is going to sound kind of empty, but like I see so much enthusiasm for 2021 just in response to like what we're doing, right? Even people who aren't purchasing, they're digging in and they're trying to understand what's going on. We're seeing pages per session, like when we actually drive a user to a page, increase, right? And yeah, we're doing some things that do that, but we're also that shows interest in what they're looking at, and they're exploring and they're researching. Higher priced items, when we're talking about $5,000 items, those are 6-12 month purchase cycles, right? We need people to know what they're buying. And so we're seeing that now, and I think that's the big thing, right? So that's my industry from a marketing guy.
Well, no, that's absolutely right. I mean, as you say, it's great that there's some optimism, because it's not exactly been an optimistic year this year, has it? In general,
right?
So I suppose, given obviously you have a raft of services, companies can contact you. You can get a website built, like obviously help with content, SEO, etc. What sort of, for those who literally have no money, they're bootstrapping everything, what would be the key things that brands should do in order to ensure that they're well placed? Because, as you know, it's an ever-changing competitive marketplace. There are some big box retail guys. Everyone's looking at investing in online. How do you kind of raise the bar for yourself and ensure that you stand out and that you ultimately gain share, I suppose, going forwards?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is every single one of us who owns a company, right? And I like this fact about our industry is that like I own a company just like the owners of a shoe company do, or the owners of a nutrition company do, where we own a small business, right? And there's a reason we got into this, and there's a reason why you created your hydration mix, and there's something that makes that different. We need to tell that story. We need to tell it effectively. There's nobody who can tell it more effectively than the owner who created it, or the creator of it, or whatever. Right. But the thing is we need to get that story across in multiple mediums. So whether it be a video or it be a landing page or a website, something, before you ever bring an ounce of traffic to a website, get that story together, right? Because that's what's going to differentiate and change, because we are, as athletes, we are stuck on what we have. And the only time that we can normally convert people, especially with like things like nutrition, right, is over the winter, because now I've got time to try it out. So I think that's the biggest thing. Build your story and build it effectively. Send it out to all your friends. Say, do you understand this or not? Right. And that's the biggest thing. Get feedback to see if people actually understand what you're trying to tell them, and then go find your audience, right? And bring traffic to that site. And that's what's going to end up like building the brand, building the conversion value, and making some money.
Yeah, no, and would you say that they should be like a new brand starting out? Obviously, lots of sports tech brands, lots of really interesting, innovative brands out there that, they may have some funding, they may have done a CrowdQ campaign, whatever it may be, but they're still uncertain about where to put their money. Would you go PR? Would you go social? Would you, in terms of what as a key strategic focus? What would you suggest for one of those brands?
Yeah, so really with those brands, like just get in the community, right? I think one of the best stories, and I'll call him out here, but Matt from Base Performance, right? Matt's been on the side of course handing out salt for years, right? And that's the way he built his business. Like he never needed an ad because he did that, right? So if you're part of the community and you're out there, we can add value, right? But it's really like, are you connecting with your consumer? Are you there for them when they need you most? And I think that's the best depiction. Like I'm 18 miles into a marathon at the end of an Ironman, and there's Matt sitting on the side of the road with a vial of salt, right? That's the biggest picture of how you build a brand, right? Is be there when people need you the most. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I think, and that's a real world non-digital application as well, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's certain things we can do and certain things we can't do. So
absolutely. Oh, this has been absolutely fascinating. It's been great to have you on board, and to well, just to listen to your insights. So obviously, companies can get in touch with you, and yeah, if there's anything else coming out, you're going to be teasing any more releases soon at any point, or you have to keep it all quiet with confidentiality?
Yeah, so we've got some really great brands coming on. So 2021 looks really good. And hopefully we're able to drive those brands. We're the silent people behind them. You'll never know that we're the ones running the ads, but we're there, and hopefully we connect with you and get your click someday and your purchase. So I look forward to it.
Well, long may that continue. Thanks ever so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure. And yeah, let's keep in touch, and wishing you all the best for the future.
Sounds good.
Take care. Cheers, Kevin. Bye-bye.